I'm excited, man. I'm excited. Only game that I think I'm as excited for is actually just Georgia-Cincy, and I want to finish with that before I let you go. You saw a lot of Cincy. You saw a lot of Tulsa. You've got feelings about Cincy. I've got feelings about Cincy. But I also remember the last two teams to play in a group, the Peach Bowl, as Group of 5 participants, Houston and Central Florida, got W's. You've had opt-outs with Georgia. You have an outstanding defense for Cincinnati. Desmond Ridder seems to be able to do almost anything. Who do you think wins, and what do you think it says about the American if Cincy can win?
Well, that's a great question. I think that the American, I don't think it's going to change my opinion on American football one bit. I think it is clearly a cut above all the other Group of 5 conferences. I think it's in a really good place with regard to some of the coaches' salaries, to be able to keep Luke Fickell as long as Cincinnati has. He's not leaving that job unless it's something fantastic among the Power 5. You don't leave that job for Purdue or whatever. What Houston's paying Dana Holgerson, and you could go down the list, Memphis, and their commitment to winning. And SMU's got a lot of good things going on, and I think a formula that can work for them as long as Dykes is there. Look, it's a league that has a lot of really good teams, and it's not that far off from the teams at the bottom of the Power 5. But do I feel good about putting an American team in a 4-team playoff? I just don't. And I don't think that's going to change with the Cincinnati win over Georgia. And it sucks because it's unfair. And I acknowledge that it's unfair, but as long as we have a 4-team playoff, this is where we're going to end up. The playoff committee is given an impossible task. Pick the 4 best teams among 130. Most of them don't see each other year in, year out. You have 5 conference champions, and then in other years, potentially Notre Dame as well. As long as we have 4, they're going to be left out. They just are. And I have a hard time making a case against it because they haven't played the schedule that, the 4th team this year is Notre Dame. They didn't play the schedule Notre Dame played. Those guys played Clemson twice. I can't sit here and tell you that I think Cincinnati would have split with Clemson this year, regardless of who Clemson trotted out at quarterback. I don't think that's the case. It's interesting to me. I think maybe in the SP Plus, Cincinnati did finish ahead of Notre Dame. That's interesting. It's a little bit eye-opening to me. It's something I would keep tabs on, if you will. Maybe they are that good. But gosh, I cover Tulsa. I love that team. I love what they've done this year, but I'm also aware of some of the flaws. And for them to go up to Cincinnati and play them as close as they did, and Cincy needing a last-second field goal to win that thing, that didn't help with regard to my, I love what Cincinnati's done. I love what they're doing. I think they're a complete team. I think Fickell's a great coach. But are they in that, do they live in that world, in that neighborhood with the top 4 or 5 teams in the country? I just don't think they do. And for that reason, I always go with the most talented team, even if UCF has beaten an Auburn or UCF has beaten a Baylor. I go with the team that is most talented, and especially with JT Daniels, ready to go. I would have to take Georgia in that ball game. And I think going forward, 2021, this game matters to Georgia more than, let's say tonight's OU Florida ball game probably matters to Florida because of all the opt-outs
or even A&M in North Carolina. Yeah. And Kyle Trask leaving next year. I think Georgia's got a chance to really build some nice momentum. And the folks there won't be happy until they win a national title. And so this is a big ball game for them. I can't pick against them in this spot and for those reasons, but I'll certainly be rooting against Georgia in the ball game. And look, I don't know how much time we have left, but I don't know that you and I have ever had a full out argument about the playoff and where it should go. But, just to let you know, I was a traditionalist back in the day. I love the fact, people would say it's the best regular season in sports. And I think that kind of got misconstrued. The regular season is still really important in college football, but it was the most unique and quirky regular season in sports. because the biggest games of the year were not played at the end in a playoff. They were played on campuses across the country, maybe in September, maybe October, maybe November. Our games of the century, like a Notre Dame, Florida State, or an Oklahoma, Nebraska in 1971. It was just a quirky sport with a quirky season, and we didn't always pick the best team. We didn't get the best team necessarily crowned national champion, but you had to have kind of a magical quality to your season. You just had to fight. It wasn't that you were the very best come December or January. It was that you were the team that was able to avoid any sort of pitfall, and win your clunkers and everything. It was just a different kind of season. Well, that's out the gate. Whether it's a 2-team playoff, a 4-team playoff, an 8-team playoff, that's off the board now. And so what am I fighting against? I am now very much for an expanded playoff. 8, 12, 16, we could talk about it. I'm for all of it. All of it's better than 4 because the group of 5 is left out. And with 5 power conferences and only 4 spots, it just gets silly every year. And so I am all for expanding it now because I think the cat's out of the bag. There's no getting it back in. The bowl games will never have the importance they did. The regular season will never be as quirky as it was. So it's time to expand that playoff in my mind, absolutely.
Hey, buddy, my T-shirt on right now says expand the playoff, you cowards, because
there you go.
That's where I'm at. But to your point about the most unique regular season, I've hit at people who wanted to tell me that, but they haven't given me the argument that you have, because I would say, I don't want to see Alabama play Western Carolina. I don't care. I don't want to see Alabama play the Citadel. I don't care. What I do care about, though, is 1966. Your Notre Dame Fighting Irish are playing against Michigan State. Both are 10-0. Do you remember what happened in that game?
I do.
Please, enlighten the people.
Notre Dame was down to its backup quarterback who was a type 1 diabetic. Eric Parsegian knew that he was probably going to come out on top in the polls if he could just pull off a tie. And so he ran into the line for the final couple minutes of the game and punted, I believe, and basically played for the tie. And it finished 10-10, and they won the national title because they beat USC 51-0 the very next week. So,
but Alabama goes 11-0 in that same year.
Yes. With an all-white team,
right? And that was the big sticking point, right? Most of the voters are north of the Mason-Dixon line. Now, I'm usually the person that brings race into an argument, but even this right here, where you have a team that played for the tie, that I can just focus on that. I don't even need to talk about Alabama. Why do we have a sport where you can win a national championship by tying? Like, I hate that, especially as you and I cover high school football. We cover high school playoffs. They go for 2 and 3 months in Texas. They have a 2014 playoff in the FCS. We know North Dakota State's going to be there at the end. We know James Madison's going to be there at the end. We know that San Diego's going to win the Pioneer League, and they're going to get railroaded in the second round of the playoffs. We still enjoy it, and it doesn't take away from them playing 10, 11, 12 games. Matter of fact, Grambling continues to pull itself out of the FCS so that they can play the Bayou Classic when they qualify. Right? You can make these decisions individually, but that's where I look at it. If we can have years like 1966, and we can have years like Steve Young and BYU in 1984, where you beat a 6-5 Michigan team when you let you claim a national championship, I got a problem with that. I can't. Now, I'm also raised in the 90s. I'm raised in the aughts. I've seen the BCS. I've seen the last portion of the Bowl Coalition, Bowl Alliance, and now I'm in the playoff, and I hate it. And all I get is older folks who, for a time, would tell me, no, RJ, this is best. And now I'm glad to hear many folks that have been watching the sport longer than I have are coming around to this thinking that, no, this is farcical. We're making our sport silly. And in that way, I'm happy because I want smarter college football fans. I want a smarter college football product. And I know because you are one of the smartest connoisseurs of college football that I've ever met, you want the same, and that makes me feel good. This is Caden McFarland. Follow him on Twitter at Caden MC. That is CAYDEN MC. He is the sports director at KJRH here in Tulsa, and my favorite sports anchor. Caden, thanks so much, brother.
RJ, it's an honor and a pleasure, my friend. Good talking to you.